Hello everyone. Good afternoon, good day, wherever you're joining from. Happy New Year and welcome to this webinar on technical writing. It's so lovely to have each and every one of you here. Please confirm you can hear me. Let's see emojis. Let's see those reactions. All right. Awesome. So today's session is about technical writing, where we're going to be learning, unlearning, and relearning everything we need to know about technical writing. And we have with us experienced, professionals in this field. They're all developer advocates. And if you know something about developer advocates, is that they have to do a lot of technical writing in order to, advocate for these technologies. They are professing, right? So they do a lot of writing. So right here today we have Liam, we have Jamin, and we have Idris. I think Idris is going to join us later on. He's running late. But we have Liam and Jamin here with us, and we're so happy to have them here, okay? And they're going to be telling us, everything we need to know from beginner level to expert level, the challenges, the gaps, resources, everything that we're going to need to get started with technical writing. So I'm going to be calling on them to give us an introduction. I'll be starting with Liam. Liam is a developer advocate with background in software engineering and skilled in technical writing, community building and growth, video content creation, and public speaking. This guy does a lot of writing. He's a tutor that does a lot of writing. So you are here to gain a lot today. He's going to be sharing his journey into technical writing, the challenges, successes, the key turning points he has had, and why technical writing is a valuable and rewarding field. Okay, so yes. Anywhere you are, a round of applause for Liam. All right, Liam, you have the floor.
All right, thank you so much. Hi everyone, and happy New Year. So it's a great one to actually have everyone here. Yeah, so my name is Ayodele Aranciola Leon, and I'm a developer advocate. So what was said, that's me. So how I started into technical writing, if I can recollect, that was probably maybe probably 8 years ago. And the way it started was there was a time I was using Linux and I faced a challenge. Yeah, that was my first time installing React on a Linux machine, and the challenge was that I couldn't install React. I think I was trying to create React app on the Linux machine, and it was not working perfectly. Tried to reach out to many people, like no response. And that time I had not find a lot of communities like we have now. So it was kind of a challenge for me to actually have people who could help me to resolve that issue. But after a lot back and forth, and I was able to fix the issue, and that was how I was like, okay, since I did this, something just pop up, and like a lot of people might have the same challenge. Why don't you just put it up? So I just write without knowing what to put together, how to structure it. I just the way it was coming on my head, I was just putting it out and I just publish it. And till date, that has been one of the most read article on my blog. Like till now, people still read the article. I was like, why are people still reading this article even in 2025? Like I still got an update from Medium that somebody still reads the article, and sometimes I see 25 people maybe in a week reading the article that I wrote many years ago. I was like, that was the first piece I actually put out. So during the process, the challenging or the successes, I can actually say technical writing has actually done a lot, like paying bills here and there, right? And then sometimes you don't have the zeal or the feel to actually put something together or to write, or sometimes you feel what you are doing is not even accurate, because one thing is having the skill, the other thing is using the skill to earn a living. So probably applying to jobs, you get rejection, then you start looking at the piece you're writing and feel like, am I even doing the right thing, or what I'm doing is even accurate, or is it a perfect thing for me to do? So it was, I think even till date, sometimes you still try to look back and check all what you are doing and see if they are still accurate. So sometimes the challenges are still there. No matter the level you get to or the height you get to, you still feel some challenges of like feeling if what you are doing is right or are you even doing it right. So that was my journey into technical writing. And today I can actually say, yes, I'm doing well in it. And if it is a valuable or rewarding field, yes, it's a valuable and rewarding field. And thank you once again for joining this live session.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leon, for that introduction. That was very insightful. And I'm sure a lot of people here now are already enthusiastic about learning about technical writing. So thank you so, so much for that. All right, I'll move on to Jamin now, and he's going to be giving us the introduction, same thing. Your challenges, your successes, key turning points, and why technical writing is a valuable and rewarding field.
Hey guys, I hope you guys can hear me. So, introduction about myself, right? So my name is Jamin. I work as a developer advocate and also as a senior technical writer. So that basically means my day-to-day activity involves writing a ton of articles and also updating our documentation on how developers can better use my company's tool. So originally I didn't start my career as a technical writer or as a developer advocate. So I have worked for over 5 years as a software engineer. So, but oftentimes, I think the part where I got into education started involuntarily. I often find myself trying to teach people about something. I think maybe it's because my dad was a teacher growing up. So that sort of influenced me. So on the early stage of my career, I also volunteered to help programs. I created curriculums for other developers to learn, and also I helped them to understand technical concept and also help them to explain things better. So I started writing technical articles in 2023. The reason was because there are some tricks I was doing as a developer that often you won't find in documentation because it's not straightforward, but it's a problem that developers often encounter. So the reason I started technical writing was not just to teach other developers these things, but to also teach myself. So if I learn about something new and I feel, okay, this is how I should sort of solve this. This is how I solved this bug, or this is how I was able to create this stuff. I will write a draft about it. So that was how I started writing. So initially, I was just writing about my thoughts. So moving on after that, I think companies started to reach out to write for them as well, to also do things for them. So the challenges of writing technical articles. No, the thing is when you're writing technical articles, you have to ensure that, okay, whatever you're writing is really accurate to an extent. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the person trying to read your articles, either they're a beginner or they're at a pro level. But put yourself in the position of somebody trying to learn something and assume that they don't know whatever you're trying to teach them. So that is often sometimes a difficult thing to do, because you might be assuming that these people have knowledge in this, these people have knowledge in that. It's not bad, but sometimes it makes technical writers write articles in a way that the reader do not really grasp what they're trying to say. So it's sometimes difficult to explain some sort of concept if you are not doing proper research, I would say. But I think I enjoy trying to break something very complex into something that is easy. So I would say it's somewhere I find joy in. And so benefits, yeah. So there are benefits in doing technical writing. I would say one, the pay is good. Won't lie. And then there are also you get to work with multiple companies sometimes to help them educate other developers. And two, if your goal is to help other people, technical writing is a very good way to do that. You get to reach other developers. You get to educate people from different backgrounds. I know people that have reached out to me, folks working on awesome things, and people building awesome products, that they often reach out to me on GitHub, via email, and via LinkedIn, that, oh, I use your article to build XYZ, and thank you so much for doing that. Sometimes when I check their profile, I'm like, wow, so I taught you how to build this thing article. That's amazing. So I think that is something I really enjoy doing, helping other people to become better. So I think that's all from my end. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to be talking to you guys about technical writing today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamin. Or if you didn't take anything from what he said, please take the fact that he said the money is good, the pay is good. Okay. So yes, you are in the right place today. Thank you very much, Jamin and Dion. All right. I know what most of us are here to listen to today is how to get started. So we're getting into the gist of this session, and that is how to get started. Steps for beginners. All right. So I'm going to be starting with Leon. What does technical writing involve? Can you get us to understand what it involves?
So let me take it from my own point of view. So what technical writing involves a lot of things, and one of it is you being able to articulate your thoughts, or let me say, being able to give people your skills, and then being able to let people know how to do a thing the way you do them. So the reason why it is called technical writing is because it is more like anybody can write, but when you add the technical part to it, it means that it has grown beyond just being an ordinary writing. And if you look at the writing space, there are a lot of writings or different type of writings that we have. But technical writing stand out because it is more of technical. So you can't see somebody who is a salesperson in some way to say he wants to write technical, unless the person has a technical background, probably an experience with developing softwares. So you need to have an understanding of a skill, probably in tech. So let me use a language as an example. So don't blame me for this. So I'll use HTML. So probably you have a knack for HTML, and even though you think you are not doing good, but you can use HTML to hack NASA, the way the popular say always go, that you can use HTML to hack NASA, right? So if you have a very good knack for HTML, there's a way you'll be able to teach someone who doesn't have any knowledge about HTML with your writing abilities. So taking a person from X to Y with writing, and sometimes it is not just building or writing HTML tags or elements. Sometimes you need to make your HTML more accessible. So you take someone with high depth, or let me say high competence or high knowledge, to be able to know how to help people to understand how to actually build website with HTML, or how to now make it more accessible. So you need to understand or have a very good knack. So the first thing is you have to be good. So there's always a say that says that you can't give out what you don't have. So you can't give what you don't have. So it is only what you give out, it is only what you have that you can actually give out. So when you become very good at what you do, then you can be able to give others. And the reason why it has become a skill is because not everybody can write, or not everybody can can teach. So you have to learn the process or the art of writing. So which is why it is needed. So that is my understanding of what it involves to become a technical writer, or the process of technical writing.
Thank you so much, Leon. Yes, being able to articulate your thoughts for a technical concept. Okay, thank you so much. All right, Jamin, what are the key skills to develop for technical writing?
Okay, thank you for that. So I think I've received this question a lot of the times when someone is trying to start technical writing, and my first answer is you have to be a developer. You have to be technical. you need to have the technical knowledge. Like what Liam said, you can't give what you don't have. So you want to start writing technical articles for a technical audience, and you don't have that technical experience, nobody's going to listen to you. So I like to say that first you have to be a developer. You don't necessarily have to be a developer in a professional setting, but what I mean by that is you should be able to have that technical knowledge to build projects, to be able to try out tools and technologies that you want to write about. Try it out, make mistakes, build something, get that perspective of a developer and how they encounter problems, and then you can then help them to solve those problems. So the first thing is to, one, have that technical knowledge, and two, it's not just having surface technical knowledge. The thing with developers is developers can actually spot a bullshit from a mile away. So if your article is you just trying to market to them and not explaining something technical to them, or trying to explain a concept, you're just trying to market something to them, they will spot your bullshit and they will call you out for it. It basically shows that you really don't know what you're doing. You're just trying to market to them. So that's one. Another thing is you have to make sure that you have clarity when writing an article. So try to ensure that your article is as clear as possible. You need to you need to be able to explain a concept, a difficult concept, in the simplest way possible without confusing your audience. I think that's a skill on its own that you have to learn. So it's sometimes involved using analogies to try to explain a concept to an audience, or sometimes breaking a very complex topic into something very small to make sure that, okay, you're able to grab this thing and also to understand it. And then again, make sure that you're doing research. So don't start yapping about what is not accurate. Do your research first. Go through the documentation, find out how the tool was created, read the documentation, read the draft, read the introduction guidelines, read whatever you have to read to be able to get your facts right, to make sure that, okay, what you're talking about is accurate, and also be able to like communicate it in a better way. And then know your audience. So you can't be writing the way you write an article for an audience of advanced developers won't be the same you write an article for beginner developers. So you have to have a personnel, know your audience, try to put yourself in their shoes. So putting yourself in their shoes helps you to think about what they would want to gain from your article. So where I write my articles is I sort of read my articles as a writer first, and then I also read it as a developer that is not writing the article. So if I wake up today and I'm trying to solve a problem and I come across the article I wrote, how does that article help me solve the problem? What will I be looking for as a developer to make sure that, okay, this is what I need, or this is what I need to read. So having that awareness that, okay, this is who I'm writing the article for, will help you to tailor the article to fit their needs. And so personal branding is also important as well. So you need to have a brand, to have a voice for yourself. Yes, you'll be writing for companies, but you also need to have a voice for yourself to I like to call it packaging. You need to package yourself in such a way that companies will see you that, oh, this person knows what they are saying, this person knows what they are doing. And personal branding in technical writing mostly means you explaining technical concept on your blog, trying to explain technical concepts, and also you writing more about your own personal challenges and things and applications that you're building as a technical writer. So it means leveraging social media very well, using social media to spread the news about the article you wrote, using platforms like Hashnode, Devto, and others to write for yourself. But by combining all of these things, the technical part, your technical skills, the ability to do proper research, and also the ability to have be aware of the audience you're writing for, and also to be able to explain words in the clearest form as possible. Now, explaining words in the clearest form possible basically sometimes involve using the simplest English possible, no long complex things. So combining all of this together will really help you to like dish out better technical articles, really.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jamin, for that. We have our third speaker here with us. He just popped in, and for those of you just joining, like the topic of the session says, is we're talking about technical writing, everything you need to know, everything you need to relearn, unlearn, and learn about, this topic. So I'm going to be calling on Idris on the stage now to give us a brief introduction about himself. He's also going to tell us about his challenges, successes, the key turning points he had in technical writing, and he's also going to tell us why technical writing is a valuable and rewarding field. Welcome, Idris. You have the floor.
GM guys. I know it's a technical writing session. It's not worth 3, but then here we go. GM guys, how you guys doing today? So my name is Idris of BBC. I am a software engineer and also a proficient technical writer. I currently work as a developer relations engineer at Interops Lab, working on the Axela network, which is a decentralized platform that helps you connect other blockchains. And also, I'm the founder of Web3 Africa, also a community contributing to the ecosystem at large when it comes to talking about the third iteration of the internet. I'm really excited to be here to share like my journey, to share my experience, to share some of the challenges I've been through as a technical writer, as a software engineer, transitioning from being a software engineer to writing, and then from writing to becoming a full-time developer relations engineer. Yeah, before joining the call, I noticed like Jamin, my boss here, was going through a lot of things already. And I know he won't acknowledge the fact that he's a boss, but yes, I know he is. So he was going through a lot of things, and these are some of the things that resonate with me a lot. But then to start with, let me quickly talk about like how I transitioned into like technical writing or started writing in the first place. I think one of the first thing I did, there was a time, okay, yeah, I remember clearly that when I started my career as a backend engineer, working with Microsoft SharePoint solution, mostly building with C#, I noticed one thing, yeah. At the time, that was around 2019/2020, I ran into several issues trying to set up things, but because I was working with legacy code base, it's kind of difficult for me to fix some of these things without having like a core knowledge or understanding, because some of these code were written around 2010, 2008. It is very difficult, like if you already work with a legacy code base, you know how difficult it is to digest some of these things. But then Googling and then trying to figure out solutions, I came across a particular article. I think that was the turning point for everything. That article was written, I think 2006. And I found the article useful as at 2019/20. So it was crazy. At first, like I encountered, I think one of the sites is SitePoint. They call it SitePoint and some other, platform like that. At first, I just find my solution and then move on. But there was the time I just saw that particular timestamp on when the article was actually, produced. And then the thing, it just gave me another reflection about, so if an article from 2006 can help me, then that's like really interesting. I am not sure if this guy is aware that his content is still helping people or is he solving a particular problem. So I started thinking, what if I can also contribute? Well, what are some, so if this thing could happen to like this type of content over 10 years, like 10, 20, sorry, at the time it was 10, 12 years later, it's still helping somebody, then it means that you can also do something like that. If you find anything that is not generally available, you can create that content and then put it out there. So irrespective of, I'm sure probably when he published the article, he was getting maybe 1 or less than 10 views at the time. but the views did not matter then because now it's actually helping me. So I can tell that probably his views might have gone up over time, but the main thing is that he provided value, and the value is relevant for me at the time. So when I saw that, I started thinking on how I can also contribute, because one of the hardest part is, what do you want to write about? That was the biggest part for me, where I was thinking so many things, like, do I need to learn something new? Even the things I think I know, I'm not sure I can write about it. Like, what if people come at me and be like, no, this is wrong, or like, you didn't explain this well? Like, I was just dealing with so many imposter in my head until I started writing. So the first content I wrote was setting up a development environment. So I did not just think about it and then just write about it, but because I was struggling to, like, I set up my blog on all these free platforms, I couldn't still like create any content, but I know I had a blog, right? But then I changed my PC at the time, and then I had to like install Node, I had to install VS Code, some other installations. Then it just hit me that, oh, probably this is an opportunity for you to write the content based on some of the things you newly installed, so that if somebody else is also, facing the same issue, they can also, benefit from all of these things, at least the content, to help them succeed. So that's how I started and then created my content. At the time, there's this GitHub Magic README that happened then. I wrote the content about it also, and I started creating content. But one thing that also changed the whole thing for me is, at the time I was collecting about 100K salary. I was a big boy then. I'm not gonna lie. So, but then, um, so, but then the main point is, I think there was a time I applied for a writing gig with some of the content I had then, and then I was paid my salary in less than 2 weeks, even more than my salary at the time, because the article I created was cost about $150. At the time, it resulted to like 150K naira for me, and that really blew my mind. Like, so I don't have to wait till like the entire month before I can get paid like my entire salary. So I started taking it even more serious. Like, yes, I need to. It looks like these things, pay a lot. But there's also something I always like to mention when I'm talking about like how I transitioned and then how I started writing. But at the time, I knew I also need to improve. These guys are judging you based on the content you submit, but because it's monetized, there are a lot of people submitting content. It's either a hit or miss. But I still wanted to improve. So what I did differently was to I applied to a free code camp, free as an author. Free code camp does not, they don't pay you, right? But then at the time I just applied because I know like free code camp is big. But then one thing that really helped me a lot is the editorial team with the feedback they gave me. They gave me a lot of feedback on how to improve my content. So that really skyrocketed and then pushed me like beyond what I would have imagined myself, or like trying to figure things out. And that's how I started like putting in more effort, working as a backend engineer, and then started focusing more on content creation. And I started getting even more gigs, and that's how the whole journey started around technical writing. So technical writing, I was not doing it a full time. I was just doing it part time, which is like a passive income. But still, I pay way more attention to it, because I now at some point of creating, and I remember that, and I had this feeling like probably I think I like writing content the way I simplify it. Also helps me to learn twice, and that's how everything started. But again, yeah. So challenges, yeah. There are a lot of challenge, a lot. Like the list is very long. The list is very, very, very long. But then I would just like pick like my top 3 challenge along the line. First, I got hit with writer's block. I literally do not know what to write about, but I'm always curious to write. But then this is a big challenge for me, but I was able to also solve it at some point. Um, Anytime I want to write a content, I always have this ginger to create content, but there is no idea. I don't know, like JavaScript already exists on the internet. How to do this, how to do that already exists. Like, how am I supposed to write? What exactly do I need to write? That was a big challenge for me. But then how was I able to solve it? I did not know I was able to solve it at the time, but I knew I solved it because later on I realized that, oh, this was the solution to it. And I started writing what I was currently learning or like what I'm currently building. So for example, I have so many tasks at work, be it backend related tasks, DB related tasks, all of these things. But then there's this thing that I just say, okay, now you've learned this thing, I've implemented this particular task. Why not write about it? What if somebody else is also struggling? But now I did not think it from the direction of maybe it already exists online. I just took it from the perspective of I'm just going to write this anyways. I don't care if it already exists or not. And that's how I was able to like overcome the writer's block, where anything I'm learning, I just try to write about it. So that way, before you finish writing this content, you already have an idea of the next one. You already have an idea of the next one. Even if after like 4 or 5 contents, now you think you don't have any other idea. There's something you are working on at your workplace that you can also see use to come up with ideas. I started picking features from what I'm working on. So if let's say you are working on a back-end application that has a fintech, that has a payment infra, has an authentication, user settings. Just think of like a lot of features that you have today on web applications. So what I started doing is, authentication alone, I'll just write about it. If I've ever worked on anything on authentication at the time, I'll write about it. So I don't need to write about the entire system. Just pick one thing and then write about it. That's how I was able to like overcome the writer's block. Then the second one is writing what is already available. I was taught like at the time, anytime I want to write, because I need to research. I think Jamin mentioned that you need to research, which is like very, very important. So when I'm trying to research, anytime I come up with a title, I try to Google that title first and see if there's a content related to it. I always find content. I'm like, I don't think people would even want to read mine, or like people would probably my blog would rank any moment from now because these people have a strong SEO and all of that. I don't need to write about it. But then I slowly started writing about it anyways because I want to write. It was not because I was comfortable of writing or I know what the outcome would be, but because I want to write anyways. Like, these people cannot stop me from writing. Like, I want to write. This is not a paid blog. Like, I want to write on my own blog. I want to continuously improve the type of content I create and my article portfolio at the time. So that was one thing I faced also, but I was able to solve that just writing it anyway, which is something I always like encourage anybody. If you want to start, just start anyways. Just start. Like, that's just the thing. Just write it, even if it doesn't make sense to you, even if it's less than 500 words. Just write it. The only thing is that when you write, the next one will be better. And then when you meet somebody, even if you have written like 10 content and somebody checks your content and be like, oh no, this your 10th content is not so good. Change that. That would help you with your 11th content and and so on and so forth. And that way you can build up on your feedback and then write a good content. And then I think the third one was social engagement, right? Which is also, I know like a lot of people will face that. Yes, you create a video, you create a content, nobody's clicking, nobody's liking, nobody's retweeting, nobody's saying anything about it. Nobody's like commenting directly to tell you, hey, this is a good one or this is a bad one. That's one thing that, I think that thing killed my energy at some point. But then what helped me was because I was not doing writing full time. So when I write and I feel like, oh, nobody is clicking, nobody is checking, I just focus on my job and then just do my job. So, and I started looking like, oh, let me just write because this is what I want to do. I want to know how to write and I want to write. So once I write, I don't really care about like the views, the things. But one thing I know I did very well to at least maybe solve this problem is content distribution, which is very important for you as a writer. It's not about writing anymore. It's not about providing value. That is not enough. How are you distributing your content? At the time, I joined a lot of Facebook groups, a lot of JavaScript group on Facebook, HTML group, CSS, developers group. I just joined a lot of groups that had over 100,000 plus people. In fact, up to 1 million people sometimes. So one thing I do is that when I post any content, I write a very small caption and then with the link to the content, and then I post on probably at the time, the WhatsApp status wasn't a thing. I mostly focus on Twitter, post on Twitter, post the same thing on LinkedIn, post the same thing on those Facebook groups, and on WhatsApp groups, post your content there. I was doing that back to back, back to back. I didn't get tired of like content distribution. So that really like shine light on some of the content I create, because now you see my content this week. Next week I posted another one. The following week or like 2 weeks later, I posted another one. You'll be like, who is this guy? How are you shipping all of this content? And then from there, people get to like know you, and then people click on those links. And the most genuine link is backlinks. Backlinks are the strongest links you can get, and you can only get it from like social apps like Instagram, Facebook. If somebody click on your article link, it's genuine, and then it helps your SEO, your site SEO grows really fast. So that way, those clicks was contributing indirectly, even though I did not know something around that. It was later, and I realized that those clicks was really helping my blog and some of the things my domain in particular grow very well. And then my article started showing up on Google. So I did not really pay attention on like my article must show up, but then over time it started showing up because of those content distribution pattern. Yeah, I think those are like my top 3. Like there are a lot of challenges, but these are the ones I know that majority of us, if you are starting out right now or you've already started, you might be facing or you might currently be experiencing. But to trust me, the reality is that it will happen, but you also get better at it over time. Yeah, I think that's pretty much like how I started my challenge and how I was able to solve those problems. I don't know, maybe there's another thing you want me to add, at least for now. If not, I will be here.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, my boss. You have actually said quite a lot, and I think you've pretty much even covered, the next item we're supposed to talk about. All right. So, if you're just joining, we're talking about technical writing, tips for beginners and for experts, things that you need to relearn and unlearn. And I just want to give an appreciation to technical writers. You people help me in my journey a lot. And just to touch on the abundance of existing content that you talked about, honestly, there's always a different perspective. I can say there are some concepts that I did not get from the first or second articles I read. And it was until the third person's article, the way the person explained it, that was when I finally grasped, that concept. So if you want to write, just write, okay? You have a different perspective from someone or a better way to explain it. So you'll be helping someone out there, definitely. And many people helped me. So yes, thank you so much for that, elaborate introduction and practical advice on how to, write technical articles. So we'll be moving on to improving as a technical writer. Okay, you'll be giving Liam, you'll be giving us tips to hone our skills. Don't smile. Give us these tips. My goodness, give us tips.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Idris and Jamin. They've actually spoke excellently on some of the context, or let me say some of the content. So I'll only be building on the blocks they've laid. So they've laid more than foundation. They've even gotten to linted like this. So I'm going to add window panels to what they've currently laid. So owning your skill as a technical writer is getting feedback and revising drafts. I remembered, was it a year ago or 2 years ago, I reached out to Idris. I said, this is my article. What's your view? When Idris would drop comment, I noticed I got close to, if not up to 30 or 40 comment or feedbacks from him. And he opened my eye to see something that I actually don't even notice. And one of them is when you pick a, what is it called? Let's say I want a user to actually perform a task in the command line. He told me, don't assume your readers know that they are doing this task on the command line. Walk them through the process. So one thing that you should actually know as a technical writer is getting feedback is very important, and then revising your previous content or your draft is very important. So look back. When it comes to the agile working, they call it inspect and adapt. So look at what you've done in the RC or what you've done in the past, and then how are we going to improve it in the next RC or in the next working sprint. So you look at what you've done in the past, and then look at what you can improve on it, or look at people who are more experienced in the field than you, ask them for their feedback. And sometimes your readers gives you feedback right on the content you write. Sometimes I actually look at some don't let me call them wicked readers, that your article is actually good to you, but they will always find a fault in your article, and right under the article comment they will blow everything out, like in this also line it is wrong, it should not do it like this. They will even give solution to that kind of thing. So I sometimes we think they are wicked, but those are people you actually need to improve yourself and become more better, because if they don't give you that the hard way, you may not actually, it may take a long while before you discover that for yourself. Then be an authority. So always have a specialized space you share your knowledge around. So if it is front end or if it is web, focus on web. If it is AI, focus on AI. If it is Web3 or blockchain, and looking at, okay, let me say blockchain, it's like a broad scope. So narrow it down to a specific that people can actually say, oh, this person is an authority in this space. I remember applying to a DevRel position at a company, and what they actually need is not a DevRel in a nutshell, but they actually need a DevRel who knows about security. So assuming I have experience in security, probably like a background knowledge about security, I will be a perfect fit for the company's DevRel position. So because I don't have that background, just to them, no, I can't, I don't have a background knowledge, and it will take me some time to actually learn, and they don't want to learn on the job. So I just had to decline, or is it that both of us just declined the job? So they didn't offer me, and I didn't want to actually take it, because it's like a small startup. If I actually spoke with the CEO and tell him, okay, this is my experience so far, and this is how I can improve, and this is my roadmap. Sometimes some growing companies can allow you to grow with them when you give them a roadmap of how you will improve yourself over time and what you've done before, so that can be like, okay, this is an evidence for you to prove that, okay, you can do this over time, and then they can be able to bank on that. So you need to have a specific knowledge in your specified field. So if it is accessibility, pick one and stay glued to that. So and then read people's content. Over time, I read, even till now, I read Jamin's content, I read Idris' content. There's this other person that also read his content too. Uncle Big B is like a known person too in the technical writing space in Nigeria. And each of these writers have different things I look forward to in their articles. Uncle Big Bay is the way he actually put words in a very friendly way in his content. Idris is his approach to structuring, and Jamin is how he actually use practical code to improve or to help his readers. So each of these writers have different approach to which they write. So, and I learned that in every of the content they push out. Sometimes if you have me on your contact on WhatsApp, you see me, we share their content on my status or probably on social. That is because I found it very exciting and very unique for me to read every time. So that is why sharing it won't be a challenge for me. So read other people's articles. Sometimes if you have a what's it called? If you have time, just add this daily.dev this thing on your browser. So as you open a tab, you might see a lot of tabs, articles that is being published. The one that focus on your interest, you can read about it. It's not because you want to learn more, but probably knowing or looking at how the person structured their article, so you learn from them. Then read documentations. Don't let me say read more documentation, but read documentations, because that is actually how you actually learn more. Then I think I've mentioned reading blogs for inspiration. So these are few things that you can actually do to own your skills as a technical writer: getting feedback, revising your drafts, building your knowledge and becoming an authority, and then regularly reading other people's piece. So that will also help you to own your skills in the technical writing space.
Thank you so much, Relearn, for that. Thank you. Those were actually very fascinating tips, and I am grateful for them personally. I don't know about the rest of you, but if you're not gaining, I am gaining a whole lot, and I'll be taking notes. Thank you so much. To everyone who has joined so far. We're talking about technical writing, and we have Leon, Jamin, and Idris here with us to guide us through the entire topic. So, Jamin, do you have any other tips different from what Leon has said on honing your skills as a technical writer?
Yeah, I think Liam has dropped all of the major points. And then I also want to iterate on the technical part as well, like grow your technical skills. It's very important. That will help you to write articles that are very solid. So when you're confident about your technical skills, you are able to better explain a technical concept and even find out bugs that users might or readers might come across when they're reading through your articles. So I can't emphasize how important having the technical skills is, but your technical skills are very important as much as the other soft skills that you're using or for writing as well. So and then I think don't think about the fact that everybody is writing articles. Your voice is unique. That's what I think. So you have your own unique voice as to how you explain something. And there are people out there that really want to listen to that particular tone of voice. So try to look for there are sometimes where you might at the beginning part you might have to look for how you want your article to sound to your readers. You should be able to look for a very common ground that resonates with both you and them. So try to be friendly when you're writing technical articles. You don't have to sound like a robot, and so try to make it friendly. Try to crack jokes somewhere along the line. Try to make them comfortable, irrespective of whatever skills they have. So I know starting out, you might have imposter syndrome that, okay, what if I wrote what I wrote is wrong? What if what I wrote is not good enough? It will always not be good enough. That's the bottom line. Starting out technical writing, you don't expect to get it so right. Don't expect to be a pro at it. Don't expect to write that to be so good. But write the little you know from your own understanding. Just make sure that what you're writing is as accurate as possible. And so write the little you know. With time, you get to improve. With time, you get to explain this concept better. So I think that's the little I want to add. So yeah, I think that's all from my end.
All right. Thank you so much, Jamin. They usually say that your first time doing something would be horrible, but you would not get to your 100th time without your first time. So let's just have that in mind, all right? Okay, awesome. We're moving into the core of this session right now. We're going to be talking about writing documentations, and Idris is going to be talking about the Diátaxis framework. I hope I got that correctly. All right, he's going to be going through the framework, tutorials, how to guide, references, explanation, all of that, and general principles of technical writing as well. All right, Idris, you have the floor now.
All right. Yeah. So can you just kind of recap the is it particularly about documentation or general?
No, just the particular framework, the Diátaxis framework.
Oh, okay.
How to use it to write documentation.
Oh yeah. So okay, yeah. So I understand that. So okay. So I'm going to start like when it comes to documentation. So the truth about being a technical writer is that number one, I quickly want to touch on what Jamin mentioned the other time about technical skills, right? I know a lot of people, this is kind of controversial. A lot of people would say probably you don't need to be technical before you become a technical writer. You can just be documenting and, but it's important to clarify that there's a difference between copywriter and technical writer. Like it's quite different. And these are roles that are like independent of each other. So if you want to become a copywriter or a content writer, it's fine. You can go ahead and become a copywriter. But when it comes to like technical writing, you have to be technical. There's no way about it. You have to learn how to code. You don't have to learn how to code like all the programming languages. Just get good at one and then have that technical knowledge and expertise. So now let me transfer that to like documentation. You might see roles like documentation engineer, API documentation engineer, API documentation developer relations person. I don't know. I've seen a lot of roles around documentation or just technical writer, and then you'll be working on documentation. But it's important to know some of the things that you should be aware of when we talk about documentations, right? But before I talk about like things you should be aware of, it's also important to know what exactly fits into your product. In most times, you are going to like decide this with your manager. That's one big thing you should know. And this varies from companies to companies. So let me give you an example of like what I mean by discussing with your manager. Some companies like to have a tutorial-based documentation. Like after every step, you have a tutorial. Some companies like to have just a code snippet-based documentation, like a very clean code snippet base. So if you see something, you go for it and then they explain. And then some like to go with a code snippet base, but you can also have an hyperlink that takes you to read more or learn more about those particular concepts. So let's say an hyperlink that links to their GitHub. Let's say they are talking about a particular code and then they have the repo on GitHub. They will link a code like an hyperlink to that GitHub code so for you to read more. They don't overwhelm you with information. But some companies do not like that. They want to give you all the information, which might end up becoming overwhelming to like somebody's learning about the product for the first time, but then they also try to take you from 0 to 1. And then above all, the last option is like some like to combine the experience for all of them. So let's say you have a code snippet. Yes, they're going to give you a code snippet so that you're not overwhelmed. Yeah. And then they will take it one after the other. But then as you go in depth, you'll be seeing hyperlinks. And then from hyperlinks, you start seeing every section of the documentation will now have a tutorial. So that tutorial will be the blog, the how-to guides, probably hosted on that same documentation platform or pointing to their blog or pointing elsewhere. So I'm going to like, I've been in a position of working like in these different like categories. But then the one that I've seen that have been a lot useful and very effective is the one that has like the combination of both. Let's say I want to learn how to set up a React now. I don't want to really care about how React works under the hood. What I want to know is what is React? What do I need to set up React? What is the command to set up React? And then what are the steps I need to do to set up React? Then after that, you cannot take it forward by saying, oh, now you have set up React. Probably you might want to do authentication, or maybe you might want to build a simple to-do app. This is an example. But this is also how to build a to-do app. And then the next one will be like, okay, now you have built a to-do app. There are other things that you might want to do. But then let me tell you how React this. Then that's how you go from 0 to 1 in just a few seconds and on the first page. You see, the main part is if a documentation cannot onboard me in less than 1 minute or less than maximum in less than 2 minutes, there's a problem. So if I cannot get onboarded in less than 2 minutes, there's a problem landing on your intro page. So that's one biggest part when you find yourself in that position to write such documentation. You need to understand user journey from a user perspective, not because you are working with the product, but try to use the product like somebody that's seen the product for the first time. Some of the documentation I worked on, even if a colleague sends a PR and then do a lot of things around documentation, I would just leave it and then come with a fresh ID next day and pretend I literally have no idea of what that thing is all about and go through it. And at the end of the day, I would see so many issues and then like say, oh, fix this one. Oh, I think this one is not okay. Not because I'm trying to prove like probably I know like most of these things, but I'm putting myself in the shoe of a complete beginner to understand what is needed. And also how I can quickly onboard users from 0 to 1. So when you talk about documentation, now you understand like what you need to onboard your users like from the beginning. But then it also comes with a lot of information and a lot of things that's embedded into that docs. Docs can contain a code snippet and you copy every section of your code and try to test it. In fact, these days you can see docs that allow you to even test the code directly on the documentation. See Stripe documentation, see Circle documentation. Like I can keep pointing like examples that allow you to test directly on the documentation, even without going to anywhere. If you need to get any key, you see a link to get a key, you paste in your key there, and then you start testing right away. That's like taking it to the next level and then showing you that you can actually get started directly from a docs before trying to run anything locally. So now let me talk about the type of documentation. I already kind of talk about an overview of what a documentation could encompass, right? And also like the one that I've seen that is like the most effective that I've seen so far, which is combining tutorial-based code snippets, how-to guides, and all of them together within the same platform, but making it seamless in such a way that I'm not pushing out all the data to you for the first time. I'm just taking it a step at a time. So as you navigate the pages, you get more information. And if you want to read more, you can click on any of the hyperlinks. So the first one is tutorials, right? So adding tutorial to documentation or making your documentation a tutorial-based documentation is a valid approach, right? But then you should also think about people that really don't care about your tutorial, but they want to understand how a concept works. So the first question you need to ask is like, why would the user even come to my docs in the first place? Where am I redirecting the user from to come to the docs? What is the user interested in seeing in my docs? What if the user is being redirected from a tutorial to the docs? Is a tutorial enough to also sit on the docs directly? When somebody is probably redirected from a tutorial, and because they want to learn more about this thing on the docs, that's why they are landing on the docs, and then they see how to go through tutorial. Is this a valid approach? Now, I'm not saying because you don't know where they are redirecting, that means that you should not have a tutorial, because tutorial is always like a practical approach to guide somebody that already learned the concept. So the idea of combining both that I mentioned earlier, let's say you have a very small code on how to, let's say, how to do routing in Next.js, right? Your user have been building application with a single page application without any routing. But now they want to route to different pages, but they don't know how to do it. When they land on your documentation, the first thing they should see is the code snippets on how to route, the explanation of that code, telling them what to do with the code. And then you can now add a tutorial at the bottom of that particular page. Now, this tutorial is not going to teach them the code again. The tutorial will now make good use of that code and then show them how routing works. The tutorial will point to the code and tell them, oh, now you want to route. Let's say we are building a to-do app that leads to another page. This is what you need to do. This is where you should place this routing code. And that is like practical example. That is just one practical example. But just think of it like a public documentation like Superbase or any of these public open source products. Expect people to have created content on platforms like dev.to or Ashnode and all of that. So that means it's not just the content on the tutorial that would fly. A lot of people will create content that a lot of people will find, a lot of other researchers will find useful. So it doesn't have to really be just from your documentation. So that's one approach to think about like documenting or like creating a documentation. Another one is how-to guides. So you might, this is kind of tricky because tutorial is also kind of showing you how to do something. But the difference in how-to guides is that how-to guide can get a particular niche where you should, or a particular niche of focus. Let's say that routing example that I gave, for example, And then after routing, maybe you want to do something like when the user gets, maybe the user is not authenticated and then they try to hit this route, you should redirect them to the home page. Now you are going beyond just routing, inner pages or like between pages. You are now going back. You are setting an action to happen whenever something happens from the user perspective. Now you can now navigate you to, if I want to create an article, how to guide for this particular thing, I can say how to redirect user to homepage or how to redirect non-authenticated users to homepage. So you can see the difference between the tutorial. This is not just telling me how to use a particular snippet, but this is telling me how to do something after something happened or how to navigate something when something happened. And then you can, follow that approach to write any other thing that you want to write on your own, or like follow that approach to implement any other thing. But then it's also important to know that a documentation is not enough with just having like tutorials, code snippets, and how to. I've seen a lot of documentation that has appendix, some has references, some has, I'm trying to remember, there's this particular word we use as my complaint for terms that you need to read on. So people like to learn more. Let's say you are mentioning words, like different words or like a lot of complex things within that documentation page. People also want to learn more about that particular thing. So you can create something very simple, like a reference they can always check out on their own to see what is going on, or like to learn more about those particular concepts, or where they can always read more about that particular terminology that they find on their documentation. So reference is also very important when it comes to like documentation, when it comes to like documenting processes on your docs page, but also giving a place where they can read more about individual concepts that you've mentioned, because you don't want your users to be like, what is this person saying? And then they now have to leave your documentation site or your doc site to one random platform to go and learn. So it's not a very good developer or user experience for me to be reading right now and then I have to Google every word I found on your page. So adding like a reference to where they can learn more about those words within your documentation is something like very, very useful. So these processes are something that you should, try out or think about when it comes to documentation. But then I also want to mention like platforms. There are so many platforms that you should think about when you want to build a documentation part, a documentation site. So why do you need a platform? Do you even require a platform to build? Yes, you do, because it helps streamline the process of development for you. There are some things that you want to achieve later on. If you try to build it yourself, you might run into issues. There are things that might not be easy to implement, but they have already been implemented using these platforms that you can just make good use of directly out of the box. So let's say, what do I mean by platform? We have Docs site as a service like Gitbook, we have Docusaurus, we have Mintlify, we have Astro, we have, the list is very long, very, very, very long. Right, a lot of sites. We have readme.io, we have a lot of doc sites, and all of these sites are just helping you to quickly build up your documentation and then make it look like a proper docs that people are already familiar with. That's another thing. I know you might want to build something different. You might want yours to be artistically, beautiful than any other doc site, but we also remember that people are already used to like some of these documentation sites. You should also make sure that they can familiarize themselves in less than 1 minute or less than 2 minutes to onboard themselves on your platform. So that's something to also take note of. Using like tools like that to help you quickly build things as you move on. And then for the last part, which I want to talk about, is what type of content you should have on your documentation. What type of content do you want to have? What type of content, what's your target audience in your documentation? I think that's the best way to talk about it. So when I mean every documentation targets, the default is for you to target complete beginner. But do you know the truth? The truth here is that the concept you might want to explain or what your product is about might be a complex product that is not so easy to explain to a complete beginner. But every goal for a documentation is to default it to the beginners. Assume they don't know anything and then they want to know everything when they visit your doc site. So that way you can be sure that yes, people can easily get onboarded once they visit your site. So you should think about the user journey when it comes to talking about the way your user think about your docs and also their experience level. Do you expect people checking this particular section of your documentation to have a knowledge of so? Then that should not be their starting point. That should be another session that people that are interested in that particular concept can click on and then read more. And then they don't need to find anything difficult, because the assumption here is that they are mid-level or senior developers and then they can figure it out themselves. But then you should also remember that it should be very simple as possible, because docs is not expected to be an exam or like a test or interview. Because I'm going through your docs, I'm not expected to be under pressure to learn things about your product. I should be able to like get started in minutes. So to summarize everything, there are different ways and different angles to think about documentation, but the most important one is combining which one works for your product, onboarding user as fast as possible, define the user journey, make sure that you can take a user from 0 to 1 in minutes, and then finally add reference to all your terminologies, pointing to your same docs where user can read more about your content. Yeah, and I hope that you find that helpful.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Idris, for that. That was elaborate. That was very elaborate. And I hope you picked one or two things from what he has said about, writing a documentation. So thank you very much, Idris, for that. Leon, I would like you to give us, an overview of tools that people can leverage as a writer. But just before you go, I just want to let the audience know that if you have questions, we're getting to the end of this session. So if you have questions, you can start leaving them in the comment session so that our speakers can address them. All right. So yes, Leon, you can go now.
All right, thank you so much. So just in case our audience doesn't know, I'm also taking notes because it's also like a good session for me to also learn from my guys as well. Okay, so tools to leverage as a writer. I don't want you to put it in like this is very important for you, but I want you to see it as from company to company, it differs. So if I should ask Jamin which tool does he use, because of his company and where he works, he might mention a different tool entirely. The same thing with Idris and same thing as mine. So personally, the tools I currently use as a technical writer for writing and editing, before I started with Grammarly for grammar checking, paraphrase and all of that. Then I graduated to Quillbot. And I think a year ago, I was introduced to Language Tool. And when I used Language Tool, automatically I saw that Language Tool was much more better. Okay, don't let me now give advice now. But for me, I noticed that it was more better than Grammarly and Quillbot. So automatically, my subscription on Grammarly and Quillbot just wasted like that. And because I couldn't use them again, sometimes I noticed that Language Tool gave me exactly what I need, because there was an article that I was writing for, I think, AP5, and my content manager told me, he said the article was AI generated. And you know what caused it? Because I was using Grammarly to convert some of the text to make it, maybe probably because of tenses. And we had to argue this for almost like 2 different course sessions. It's like it took me 4 weeks to create this content. Now you are telling me that this article is AI generated. We battle. But when I told you, okay, I think what now saved me was like, he now asked the question, he said, which tool are you using for your grammar check? And I said Grammarly. He said, oh, I understand where you're coming from. He now recommended Language Tool. And from that point, I noticed that, oh, Grammarly is not for me. So Language Tool was helpful. And then I also use Hemingway. Sometimes you finish writing the content, you want to know if the voice you are using is actually a passive or active voice. Hemingway will help you to detect it right away that, oh, this tone you're using is not active, this tone is not this tone is passive. So it tells you where to adjust. And it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't suggest, it just say, adjust it, let me see again. So, and you can also use it to also adjust, but sometimes it will tell you adjust, then let me see again. So you adjust the words and bring it back. It tells you, oh, this is passive or this is active. And we can't run away from a text editor. So I'm a fan of Visual Studio Code. So I use that to write my Markdown. And it was when I was contributing to GitHub documentation that I noticed that Markdown is also like a great tool on its own, because on their docs platform on GitHub, on their repo, they set up a linting tool for Markdown. That was my first time encountering linting tool for Markdown. I was like, I thought Markdown is just for us to write. So I never knew Markdown can also be linted. So so as a technical writer, you also need to learn how to write or how to use Markdown. There are tons of snippets or elements or tags of Markdown that we have never used, and they are available for us to use. So most of the time I use TagEdit or ArcMD to write my Markdown if I don't want to use Visual Studio Code to write on the go and share. And if I don't need all these tools to write and I just want to write only plain text, I use Google Docs. So the Google Docs tool is, what's it called, my favorite writing piece. So some people is Notion. Don't let me mention it, but he knows himself. So but my own favorite is Google Docs, because I can write, immediately share with people. They can also drop comments. The same thing for ArcMD too. ArcMD also allows you to share and also what's it called, drop comment for some people. So for documentation, I've been able to use Gitbook, Ashnode Docs. So immediately Ashnode launched their documentation platform. When I tried it out, something that I expected in Gitbook, I found it in Ashnode Docs, which makes me cherish Ashnode Docs more. And then I've also been able to use okay, so for my current company, I was trying to set up a documentation platform for our internal team, and we don't want to spend money. So I found out this open source tool, MacDoc. So I combined it with Next.js and MDX. So with it, you can build a documentation platform and deploy on your local infrastructure internally for your organization. And you can even make it public for your external users. So once you deploy it, your engineers will be writing the documentation using Markdown. And once they make a pull request, you just automate the pipeline. It will just automatically publish using Next.js, and it will be live as what you see is what you get text on the page. It will even be nicer, right? So MacDoc, Next.js, and MDX to publish to create a documentation platform internally, and you can also publish it. So that was the tool I set up for our internal engineering team for writing documentation. So for collaboration, I've used GitHub. It was once I used GitLab once. I don't know why that GitLab is not what we use mostly in. Although that also depends the company. But currently in my current organization, we don't directly use GitHub. What we use is Azure DevOps. So you can see that from company to company, it differs. So my writing and editing tools, language tool, Hemingway, then VS Code, Stack Editor, ArcMD, then Google Docs, then documentation tools. Somebody is trying to lure me to Notion, right? So I'm still trying to do stronger, but it's okay. But I've used Gitbook, I've used Ashnode Docs, and then the market doc that I set up for our internal organization. Then collaboration, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. But for my company, we use Azure DevOps. So that is the tool that I currently leverage as a technical writer. And I won't forget AI. Is it ChatGPT? Yeah, ChatGPT. So I also leverage that as a tool. And one thing I will actually say is that don't allow ChatGPT to write your content. Only use it as a guide. So I know this might be hard on a lot of person, because they will feel and ChatGPT will write article for you in seconds. There's a difference between AI generated content and you generated content. There's a way you put content out that it will resonate well with people. Although people will say, no, I will train the AI to know my tone to do this thing, but it won't still meet that standard that you've set for yourself, because your voice will be your voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you so much. I hope everyone took down those tools that they can use that they can leverage, to write technical articles. Thank you so much. Like I said earlier, if you have questions, you can start leaving them in the comment section and we'll address it right after this topic. All right, Jabin. Now we're getting into the money part because you told us earlier that there's money in this technical writing. So, how do we build a technical writing CV and portfolio? You can give us tips on CV and then tips on portfolio creation.
Okay. CV and portfolio. Okay, so let's talk about the portfolio part, and then we'll talk about the CV later. So for the most part, the way you build your technical writing portfolio sort of looks like the way you build your software engineering portfolio. So you can start with writing on your personal blog. You can have a personal blog, but if you want more distribution, you can use something like Ashnode and DevTool. DevTool gives you access to more developers when you're writing. So you can start with that, and also try to just pick a topic that you're comfortable with. Pick a topic that you've used personally. Pick a tool that you've used personally, a challenge you went through. It might be a bug you fix, or it might just be one new discovery that you discovered that, oh, you can actually build the XYZ thing with this. So write about it and put it there. Again, look for something relating to what you know, or relating to your field, or relating to your skill set, and write about it. So what you do is you try to make sure that you are trying to help other developers from your own personal perspective. If a company wants to hire you, they would want to see how you personally write blog without going through editorial processes. So as you do that gradually, there are also other platforms like the one my boss mentioned, Idris. Idris mentioned FreeCodeCamp. FreeCodeCamp is a very good platform to increase the awareness about you being a technical writer, because they give you a platform with not with a lot of users, with thousands of developers, and then you get to write for them, for this audience to read your articles. So that increases your visibility and publicity. So doing all of this will sort of like help you to have this portfolio that, oh, I've written XYZ articles in the past, and these are some of the articles I've written. So personally, what I like to do is I like to pick, aside from writing from your own personal experience, it's possible that you might be trying out a very new technology and want to do something. So pick a technology that you're interested in, that you've had fun with, try to build with it, try to see how you can build with it, and then write about it as well. So when you do all of this, you then start having 1 or 2 articles on your belt, and then there are a lot of companies that accept guest author, and so these companies can also shoot them a shot that you want to write for them, apply on their website, send whoever that is leading the program an email or a message on LinkedIn that you would like to write for them. So the idea is to just that will give you like the experience of going through an editorial process to improve an article and to publish for a body. So gradually, by doing that, you then start getting the concept of how you can write technical articles professionally so that it sounds very good. So what I did was I think there was one company I wrote for, Directus. I wrote for them last year. And so what happened was that I did not know that they had like a guest author program at first. But when I saw their tool, I was very impressed because I've been looking for something like that. So the first thing I did was try to use it. After using it, I tried to, because the process was not that straightforward when I was trying to use it with Next.js, with Next.js authentication. So I wrote sort of like a draft. I was supposed to publish it on my blog. And so when I wrote the draft, I wrote everything and I just proofread it and wanted to publish it on my blog. And then I came across the fact that they were accepting guest authors. So I applied. I didn't get any response. So I messaged the lead dev there, the director of dev there, and I told him that, oh, I checked out the tool that you guys are using. It's very cool. I've used it to build a project, but I noticed that there was no guide on how to use it with NextAuth. So I wrote a guide myself, and this is how the guide looks like, and this is how the guide looks like. The moment the guy saw it and read the article, the guy was like, "You should be in our guest author program. You should write this for us." So that was how I started writing for them as a guest author. And so we moved on into like publishing articles, and I published a couple of articles for them last year as well. So gradually build your own personal portfolio, and by writing articles on your personal blog, on DevTool, on Hashnode. Now the sweet thing is, I think you can write one blog post and cross post it, or yeah, you can write one blog post and publish it on Hashnode, publish it on DevTool, and publish it on which other platform? Medium as well. So all of this will bring in more traffic for the same single blog post idea that you wrote. So by doing this gradually, you then start improving. And so moving on to the CV part. So when you start writing an article, there are a couple of things you need to start noticing, or when you're trying to get into like the professional part of writing articles. So one thing is the article you're writing. Two is the metric of the article. How far is your article getting to? Who is reading your article? And also the impact of your article. So these are sort of like funny metrics to measure, because most times you can't really know. Some ways to measure these metrics is more like, okay, the blog platform you're using has an analytic dashboard. You're able to notice those metrics. And then for impact as well, I think the way I measure impact is, people talk about what I've written, they shared it somewhere else and things like that, aside from the ones I share around. So when you have all of these, you can then add to your resume, add to your CV that, okay, you published article for XYZ companies, and these were the metrics from that blog. You were able to help XYZ number of developers to better use their product and things like that. And then what Idris mentioned, like the time it takes for a developer to use your product, how reduced is that time? If people start spending less time on your documentation because you help to improve that documentation, that's a good metric to record and to add to your CV. So all of these combined, you can then add this to your CV as, okay, you did this, you published XYZ amount of articles on so this thing, and it had XYZ amount of analytics or impact on developers for them to be able to use the company's product. So if you combine the metrics along with the blog posts you've written, or along with the technical articles you've written, I'm definitely sure that companies would want to hire you. So one thing I should let you know is you should also have a branding for yourself. Have a place where you have all your articles. So I'll give you an example of how that is very helpful. So the company where I work right now, the way they hired me was that I applied for the job. I had the interview calls with my manager, with the CEO of the company, and other folks from the company. But there was something that very nice that happened. Nobody asked me, what articles have you written before? The reason is because on my personal website, on the blog session, it contains all the different articles I've written, both on my personal blog for different companies and everything. I combined everything in one place. So that sort of worked like a hub for me to have all the articles that I've written in one place. So that way you get to see, oh, this person actually knows how to write in XYZ topics and has written in various topics and about various products. So the day I joined the company, the day I joined the company I'm currently working for, who introduced me to the whole Slack channel was the CEO of the company. And the way he introduced me was that he has nothing more to say. He's just going to share my blog so that everybody can see the contents I write. So if you think that you don't need a portfolio where you have all the contents you've written, then you're very wrong. Because people read that a lot. People go there when they are looking for information about you, or they want to see if you are proficient as a technical writer. They tend to turn to those resources to just get an understanding of how you think or how you write. So have a personal portfolio, have a personal website where you explain the things you do, and also sample of like documentations or articles you've written in the past. It will really help those that are looking to hire you or want to use you for a gig or wants you to write article for their company, to give them a better understanding about what you're doing and how you're doing it. So I think if you combine all of this, you'll be able to build a very solid portfolio and CV to be hired.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jamin. Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Idris. Thank you to all our listeners, everyone who has joined in on this session. You guys have dropped a whole lot of actionable tips and guidance on the topic of technical writing. So I'm going to be asking a couple of questions from the comment section. Cavicon says, are there technical writing certifications you have? So I'm guessing that you have or you can have. So are there any technical writing certifications you can have? Liam, I'll leave you to take this.
Okay, specifically for me, I don't think there is currently any technical writing certification, but there are some courses. One of the courses that I know that I usually share is the Google technical writing course. Even though right on that particular page they said there is no certification accounted for that particular course. So one thing you can actually do is take more certifications in respect to your current field. So let's say, for instance, you are a solution architect, you can take certification for AWS Solution Architect Associate, AWS Professional, all of that. DevOps, you can take certification on DevOps. If you are a mobile engineer, you can take certification around all of those. And not just certification, like notable certifications that are known globally, right? So, and that counts as certification that you can bank on, because more of what people bank on as a technical writer is that your what did you bring? You know, when you buy a phone, in those days, phone comes with charger and what's it called of that, and earpiece. These days, your phone only comes with your phone and the cable. You go and buy the head of your charger somewhere else, more like the adapter somewhere else. So they expect that your adapter should come from where you are coming from, right? So, and they only give you the cable and the phone, right? So technical writing, you need to bring your adapter that people can plug in. So which means, and you know that you can't just plug your cable to anywhere. It has to be a supported port for that cable, because you can't plug a type A USB or a type USB to a type C USB, right? So they work differently. So let's say you are a DevOps engineer, you have to do certifications. When you work with a new company out there as a technical writer, that certification covers you as an authority or somebody who knows something really well with DevOps. So that is my answer to that.
Okay, thank you so much. Cavicon, I hope that answered your question. There's another question from AJ Tech, and he says about AI. Is it okay to put together all your doc and research doc together? Is it okay to put together all your doc and research and give AI to make it more professional in a way that you want it? Idris, can you handle this?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, AJ Tag says, is it okay for you to put all your documents, your research documents together and then give to AI to make it more professional in a way that you would want it?
So there are ways to it, right? What I always do personally is I don't let AI determine the type of content or my tone of voice. right? So even when I copy the content or like share with AI, I'll tell the AI, so here the prompt. This is the prompt I'll use, right? I'll say, go through this document and tell me what can be improved on. That's the only prompt I will tell it. And then to go through it, and then it will tell me what needs to be improved on. I would see it, what needs to be improved on. He will highlight, like most times the AI will highlight everything for me one after the other, different session. Like, oh, maybe you should add this, maybe this is good enough, but add this, add that. Then I will now take that feedback and go straight to my content and add it myself, rewrite things myself. I will not copy directly from the content provided by AI, because sometimes it won't tell you just what to change. It will try to give you like a new version of the content, right? So you should be careful that you don't want to like copy that AI new version of content directly to your stuff, right? You should do it straight up on your environment first. Try to learn from what the feedback he gave, and then use that feedback to improve your content. So that way, you can be rest assured that you have a genuine content, and also you are still using your tone of words. The only thing the AI did was to help you with improvement and then suggest an improvement that can find you. Most times, I don't directly use all the suggestions, because sometimes the system is dumb. Some of the suggestions is just like, in my head, I'm just like, no, 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 this is not what I want. So that way, I can tell what I want, even while you are suggesting for me. I'm the one creating the content. I know what the expectation looks like and the outcome that I want. I know what it should look like in my head, right? So that way, if you suggest something that is going out of way, I can call it out and be like, no, um, maybe I don't want this or I want that, and then I can select. So that way you have control and full power on your content, and at the same time, you have somebody like that. AI is that somebody that is advising you on best practices and things that you can improve on, right? Which is like a suggestion you can get from any editor or like a friend of yours to help you improve on your content.
All right, thank you so much. Who asked that question? I hope that answers your question, AJ Tech. I hope that answers it. Mubarak is asking, should you use one dev tool like Medium, or how should you go about it? Liam, can you tackle this?
Please take the question once again.
Okay, Mubarak says, should you use one dev tool like Medium, or how should you go about it?
Okay, so let me say it is kind of relative, because Medium has its own audience, and each dev tool platform also have their own audience too. So you can test them out and see which one work best for you. I started from dev.to to Ashnode, and today I don't currently, what's it called, publish on either dev.to or Ashnode. And I also started using Medium too, but I seldom post on Medium because I now have my own personal blogging website, more like my own domain. So most of my blogs, I now publish them directly on my blog. So instead of using either Medium, dev.to or Ashnode, I just publish it on my blog. So what I now do is that um, dev.to and Ashnode, even Medium, they have one tool that if you publish your article somewhere else, you can republish it on them. So I just copied the link from my blog post, paste it on either dev.to, Ashnode, or Medium, and it will just automatically import the article. You can just edit, and then so in that way, I'm not writing directly there. I'm just using them as a backlink for my main article. And sometimes I just share. So I'll just say it is relative. So which the one that works best for you, either dev.to, Ashnode, then you should go for it.
All right, thank you, Haruna. I hope okay, no, that was Mubarak. I hope that answers your question, and I'll be taking the last question now from Haruna, and he's asking, what is the role of SEO in technical writing? This for you, Jamin. And the second question is, where can one learn SEO?
Yeah, so SEO helps your articles to be better optimized for search engine. So it involves specifying keywords that you would like your article to rank on, and this will be able to make sure that your article, whenever someone is searching for those keywords, your article is among the top 10 results coming out. So SEO is very important for technical writing. So if you work for a company, it's most likely that as a technical writer, your company will have an SEO specialist where their work would be to analyze keywords that each article you're writing should be optimized for. But if you're writing for your personal blog, I think you can also do that if you have a little understanding about how search engine works and how Google crawls for content around the web. So that way you'll be able to like write articles that well optimized. So the thing is, whenever you're writing an article, take for example, there's an article I wrote on my personal blog. I think that's the last article I wrote. It's literally the last article I wrote, so it was very recent, but it's like the most ranked article concerning the topic. So the article was about how to deploy directives to render.com. So as a developer, if you're searching for that kind of article, like how to deploy directives to render.com, it's most likely that you will be searching for those keywords like, okay, directives render.com, how to deploy. And this with anything relating to deployment. So you most likely should be optimizing for deployment, directives itself, render.com, how to install, how to do this. So ensure that those keywords are available in your article, and then they are also available as tags. And so you can then also categorize the article very well to make sure that, okay, whenever search engines are crawling for it, they get to understand that this article is specifically tailored for these specific tools, and I should optimize whenever someone is searching for it. I don't know if the article is still ranking as #1, because I know the official company render.com. They were dragging that SEO position with me. So they were literally trying to outrank my article, but I think my article has been ranking for quite a while. So SEO is very important. It helps your article to rank better. And so for that, I think Google also has an SEO course that you can take. You don't really need to dive very deep into SEO to know backlinking and all that. You need to understand backlinking, but to an extent, because backlink linking, if you're writing for your personal blog, helps to give your personal blog an authority over as a domain that is really good at what they do. So sharing your content on social media as well helps to improve your SEO ranking. So there are using Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and whatever platform that you're using helps to like, okay, when people click on it from social media and also they share it to other people on social media, it improves your backlink linking and also your authority that, it helps to tell crawlers that this article is more like it's been spoken about on social media. So it basically means this is very helpful to people. And so in terms of keywords, when you're writing an article for SEO to find, there are two kinds: the primary keywords and the secondary keywords. So the primary keywords are what you want, the first few keywords you want people to see in your article when they search for it. So the example I used of directives and render.com, the primary keyword there was how to install directives, how to install render.com, the primary keyword people were searching for was how to install on render.com. And so that was really good. And so there are also other secondary keywords that you can add as well. So things like deployment, things like installation, things like Docker, and those other secondary keywords help to describe to Google crawlers, to give them more context about what your article is about. So that way they are able to like, okay, this article should be ranked on the first 10 pages and things like that. So there, I think Google has an SEO course, and then there are also some very nice courses on Udemy about SEO. Yeah, I think I've watched one before, and it was really comprehensive. So SEO is important, but I won't advise you to become a full-blown specialist there. So, but it's important to have like the basic understanding so that you can use it when you're writing for your personal blog to rank better.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jamin. Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Idris. Thank you, everyone who has made it to this session. We have been talking about technical writing, unlearning, relearning, and learning. We have talked about, technical writing being, basically being able to articulate your thoughts on a technical concept. We've talked about the skills that you need, like experience, a little bit of experience in development. You need to be able to do proper research, know your onions, all right? And also do personal branding as well. We talked about a couple of challenges like writer's block, abundance of existing content, social engagement on your articles as well. Now, we have also talked about, honing your skills, which is through reading other people's content. You cannot be a technical writer without reading, basically. All right. You grow your technical skills as well. And they've talked about, a framework that we can use there, takes this, that you can use for your technical writing documentations. All right. We've talked about a whole lot. We've talked about a whole lot of things on this topic, and I'm pretty sure that everyone has gained a couple of things to get started on their technical writing journey. All right. So I want to say a very big thank you to everyone for making it here, and we hope to see you in our next webinar. Liam, I don't know if you have something to say. You can say it now, and then we can, end the session.
I really want to appreciate everyone, and thank you for joining the space. I want to appreciate my bosses for honoring the invite to join, because I actually want to do the space or the live session all alone. Then I thought about it. How will it be, or how will it sound if I have other heads who are also advanced in the space to also come share their knowledge? So one thing is picking somebody's 7 years of experience and somebody's 8 years and somebody's 9 years in just minutes is something that can take you far and can help you to cover miles without you knowing. So, and also I want to actually use the opportunity to commit Jamin to the next live session, which will be job searching masterclass. So we call it bombing. So bombing 101. So there's something that, one thing that I can actually say I value so much about my circle of friends is what I get in return. It's not about being friends. We talk about a lot of things, but sometimes the rewards of that friendship is is just beyond word. So this job searching masterclass is, let me say, our secret tool for applying to jobs, right? So I'll be glad that, so once we pick the date, we'll announce, and then we'll be doing a live session about job searching masterclass. So and I call it bombing 101. So you'll be talking about the process of searching for jobs, tailoring your CV, and then going from platform to platform. Now, many of us use LinkedIn to search for jobs, but there is an advanced way that you can use LinkedIn to search for jobs. And we also created a strategy of job searching, which was spearheaded by Jamin as well. And in the strategy, it goes beyond you just applying to job. When you're applying for a job, it is also a job on its own. But when you're just applying without any direction, at the end of the day, you might just end up applying to 100 jobs and you'll be getting 100 rejection. But when you have a strategy, you have a goal, and then it means that there's something that you want to achieve at the end of the day, and then it means that you will streamline your job searching focus to what matters most to you, and then you won't just waste your shot. And he said something that I picked. He said, both of you won't waste each other's time. You won't waste the employer's time, and you also won't waste your time. So look forward to that, and I hope you find it also amazing. So also, please don't forget to follow or the YouTube channel for more content, and then our speakers on LinkedIn, Code Jagaban for Jamin, and for Idris Olubisi, and for myself, Ansiola Ayo, and for X, Jamin, Code Jagaban, Idris, Olanetsoft, and for Liam of Things. So okay. So if there are still more questions, please drop them in the comment section, and we'll be willing and be always available to answer questions, or you can send us a DM. So if here on this chat is not okay for you, feel free to go to our DM. But any question dropped on this live session, even in the next 2 years, will still be answered. So thank you so much, and thank you more for helping us anchor this session.
Thank you so much, Liam. Thank you, everyone. So it is bye-bye from here. See you at the next session.
All right, bye guys. Take care.
Bye, guys.